Looking at the crypto market on the daily view right now, we are starting to see a little bit of less red. Yes, there still is some altcoins selling off, but the good news is that we are now starting to see a lot of altcoins bouncing back a bit on the daily. Now, if we're looking at the weekly view here, we are still seeing some deep reds. We have yet to see a big bounce, but most of this space in terms of just the green today it's a reaction to what Bitcoin has been doing. Now, when it comes to Bitcoin, we're hovering around 114.4K, Ethereum just around 4,100, XRP at around $2.85. So again, we're still kind of in that boring phase when it comes to altcoins and when it comes to Ethereum. We're mainly focused on what Bitcoin is doing here because we want to see Bitcoin break over 114 roughly 0.7K on the daily, get a nice daily close over that level, and that way we can start to really kind of build back to some of those key highs. Now, the question here is the government shutdown, because yes, the government shutdown is imminent. It's going to be happening. By the time that this video goes live, the government will have been, basically shut down. Now, what kind of consequences does this have on the market? Is the market going to sell off? Are we going to see a crash? Because everyone's kind of panicking over this. I don't think that it's a big concern at all for us. I don't think that we need to be worried or anything like that, and I'll talk about why here in a moment. Taking a quick look at the market itself, we are bouncing back. We are starting to form some higher lows here as well, just looking at the crypto market cap itself. Fear and greed bouncing back a bit. We're back to about roughly 42, so it's still in neutral territory, which is very good to see. And then outside of that, the altcoin market, right, in terms of alt season, this has started to drop down a bit to about roughly 55. And that's because when it comes to Bitcoin itself, and I believe that they have this chart, they used to have like a whole bunch of charts up here, but I'm not seeing them. I think it's actually in here. Yeah, so Bitcoin dominance, just looking at this real quick, looking at the 30-day, we can see that this has been starting to trail back to the upside, while we've been witnessing Ethereum and also even the others dropping down a bit. Again, the main thing that we're focused on here is still looking at signs of alt season, when we can officially see alt season. I hate looking at some of these charts on CoinMarketCap or just in this space itself. When we think about, for an example, the altcoin season index, everyone thinks that we see alt season the second that we see this thing up here. That's not how alt season works at all. Like, for an example, back in 2024, around November into December, yes, altcoins started to go crazy, but it was only a select few. It really wasn't an alt season. It really wasn't a crazy move across the board for altcoins, not the way that it was in previous cycles. So I don't believe that that's where we should be looking at to gauge if we are in alt season or not. I don't really think that this chart matters all that much. It just kind of gives us a little bit of an insight on how strong altcoins are. The main thing that I'm focused on is others' dominance right now. I've shared with you guys on multiple occasions a chart, which, we will definitely talk about at some point in the future, because right now there really hasn't been a major change on that chart at all, because I look at it on the 3-week. The main thing that I'm looking at when it comes to others' dominance, and we could see this going all the way back to 2017, we could even go all the way back to 2021. Typically, when we see an alt season, or when we are starting to see alt season happen, we see something like this going all the way back to January of 2021, where altcoins get wiped out against Bitcoin. This is Bitcoin's last major push to the upside in terms of dominance. Others went insane, and in fact, it matched the same dominance of Bitcoin nearly around May of 2021. Now, this is where I do think that most altcoins topped out, like, for an example, XRP, Dogecoin, and XLM, as well as a few others. Beyond that, we continued to kind of push higher a bit into the end of the year, and then that was basically the end of the bull run. Again, back in 2017, we saw others break over Bitcoin dominance. We hit about 48.4% compared to Bitcoin's 32.8%, and that was, of course, the top for alt season. So far, altcoins in terms of others' dominance has just been really kind of going down and just chopping. We have not seen alt season. We haven't yet. We haven't seen it since going all the way back to 2021. I just want to get that point across. When it comes to Bitcoin so far, over the last 7 days, and even looking at this thing on the monthly, we could see that we are right around resistance. We want to clear 114.7K on this chart officially, get a strong close over this. That way we can build back to these highs of roughly 117K, 118K or so. And then after that is cleared, we could target the highs going all the way back from August and also July. 120K is the main level here when we're looking on this chart because that's all resistance. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get past that. The good thing is that when it comes to Bitcoin, especially just looking at this real quick on a trading view chart, is since our low recently, we have created a higher low structure, which is very good. And even on this recent move, it's technically a higher high on the lower time frame structure, more so like looking at this on the 3 hour. I still want to see a major push here above these highs. So, this would take us to 118K. The main reason why we're looking at, 114.7K is just mainly flipping supply and support zones. So we want to see a big push over this level. This is going to act as a resistance until we get a push over that. So if we can clear that, we will target this high from the 18th. After that is cleared, then we start to push back to some of these other highs from like July and even from our August highs. So far, Bitcoin looks pretty good here, but it's happening at a time where we are starting to hear talks about this imminent government shutdown. So here we have from the White House, Democrat shutdown is imminent, right? Less than 4 hours. So, at midnight, this is going to officially close. I always hate when we see these types of accounts. Like, this is an official account, right? And it's kind of fear-mongering a bit. The shutdown is imminent. Prepare now. Like, it kind of feels as if we're, witnessing some sort of manipulation. I think that this is supposed to scare the market a bit. Maybe I'm looking at this a little bit different, right? But the main thing that we're looking at here is, yes, the government is going to be shutting down. Are we supposed to be concerned here? Are we supposed to be panicking? Are we supposed to be worried about, the market, especially stocks, right? Because stocks are the main driver here. How do stocks perform under pressure of a government shutdown? Well, the Coinbase letter put out a great post that I really want to spotlight in this video. So we have here that the US government shutdown is happening. For the first time since 2018, the US is about to enter a government shutdown and investors are bracing for it. This would furlough 750,000 workers per day, costing $400 million in daily compensation. What does it all mean? Let us explain. Now, here we have an image real quick. I just want to share with you guys this image real quick. I want to open it up in a new tab. So again, this goes all the way back to 2018. I just want to zoom in, right? We have our official government shutdown, okay? These are all of the government shutdowns, by the way. The orange lines. The S&P going off of the government shutdown back in 2018, yes, it dipped. I do think that the S&P has been overcooked for a bit of time. So having a strong dip here on the S&P would kind of be expected. But then after that, as you guys can see, the S&P just continues to go absolutely insane to the upside. Here we have a little bit of a breakdown of this. So we have the last time that we entered a government shutdown was in December of 2018 in Trump's first term. The shutdown lasted 35 days, making it the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. The average length of a shutdown is 8 days, and its implications spread further when it lasts longer. During a shutdown, many federal functions are suspended. Services that the government deems essential, such as those related to law enforcement, continue. If an agreement is not reached by 12:01 a.m. ET on October 1st, the U.S. government will officially enter a shutdown. The million-dollar question, though. What does it mean for the market? Surprisingly, it rarely derails the market over the long run. In fact, 86% of shutdowns saw the S&P 500 end higher 12 months later with an average gain of 12.7%. Results are consistent regardless of president. Now, the only thing that concerns me with this, fact is Jim Cramer is saying that he thinks a government shutdown won't have a big impact on the market. We already know that Jim Cramer is a huge inverse indicator. Is this just a psyop? Is this to, again, build on top of that panic? It probably is. I feel like all of this is just noise. I don't think that we really need to be concerned with it too much, especially when we look at the, past. This is the main thing, right? It goes back to even the rate cuts. We were focused on all of the information surrounding the rate cuts when it pertains back to previous performances of the S&P. This is the best way to gauge what can happen, especially when something is, an 86% chance. Like if something is an 86% chance, I am taking that bet 9 times out of 10. Most likely probably 10 times out of 10. Because again, 86% of Shutdown saw the S&P 500 and higher 12 months later. If we are looking at this and we're comparing it to where we are at currently, I also think that the S&P is going to perform very well. The near term, though, effects bring more volatility. The S&P 500 tends to finish higher in just 55% of cases at the end of the shutdown. In the 1970s and 1980s, this typically came with a sharp downturn. However, the S&P 500 has finished higher during every shutdown since 1995. Again, like I said, the S&P 500 has been overcooked for a bit of time, so having a nice little pullback here wouldn't be a big surprise. Today, Trump said that the U.S. will probably have a government shutdown. Prediction markets show that there is currently an 87% chance of a shutdown in 9 hours from now, which, again, we did get it. Beyond that, in fact, data this morning shows that the government staffers are already preparing for the shutdown. The total number of job openings on the U.S. government website plummeted 87% over the past week. Openings fell from 10,000 to just 1,300 in a matter of days as shutdown odds surged. Meanwhile, gold is set to post a 10% monthly gain and now is up 45% year to date. Gold has been pricing this in for the last few weeks. Couple this with rate cuts into rising inflation, and gold is on track for its best year since 1979. And again, when we think about, the S&P and the entire market itself, I really just feel as if, crypto should be trading much higher than where we are at right now. Something is suppressing the price action. You could argue that it's manipulation. You could argue, multiple factors. But I really do think that, by the end of this year, we're going to come back to a lot of this stuff and say, wow, it really was just noise. It's very similar to the trade war, the tariff discussions. I don't think that we need to be concerned at all with this government shutdown. I know that a lot of people have been really kind of concerned with it, especially in regards to altcoins, because again, altcoins have not been, the strongest, especially when we look at XRP. I mean, this is XRP on the monthly. We're up about 3.36%. Looking at this on the 7-day and even on the daily, things are still pretty boring. Even with some of these, nice impulsive moves, we're still trading significantly lower than where we should be at this current moment in time. Looking at this on the daily, again, we did lose some of these lows. We created a lower low. We need a lot more work on this chart until we flip bullish again. And I know that that sounds crazy because, again, we're like, oh, we're not bullish on XRP anymore. The main thing here is that I'm still very bullish on XRP. I'm just talking about in terms of TA wise, right? Like, I'm not bullish on this chart at all until we start to flip some key levels, because it means that we could still see lower price action. Looking at this thing on the weekly, there's a crazy fair value gap on this chart right around, and let me just kind of show you guys this real quick, right around like $2.30 some cents to about $2.70. We've already started to kind of dip around those levels, but we could definitely fill this gap and have a deeper sell-off, especially if the S&P is going to chop a little bit, because if we're going back to the Kabaisi, right, the short term when it comes to the S&P is a little bit more volatile. I've talked about it on multiple occasions over the last couple of days, especially when I do update you guys on the market. The S&P RSI wise is extremely cooked. So a reset would be welcomed in, especially if we want higher price action on stocks. So if we do see that volatility hit the market, we could see Bitcoin have another sell-off. Again, it's very possible. I do think that we still need to watch Bitcoin going into the end of the week, especially with the weekly, candle close. But I just want you guys to understand that we should be prepared for any negative price action that hits this market at this time. There's a lot of things that are out of our control, but the main thing to focus on here is that it's all short-term pain if we do see any significant sell-off. So the main thing here is expect volatility, have some stablecoins on the sidelines for buying opportunities, but beyond that, I don't think that we have to panic at all, especially when we're looking at how the S&P 500 trades when we are in a shutdown and after we get out of the shutdown, and even with rate cuts into inflation. So overall, not too bad of, a start of the week for crypto. Bitcoin is still looking pretty good here. I'm watching to see if we could break key levels. If we could break key levels and, trade higher, that's great to see, especially if we are going to see a little bit of volatility hit the market. But beyond that, yeah, not really. There really isn't a lot to go off of with, some of these other charts like XRP or even Ethereum. We're just still kind of waiting for Bitcoin to, do its thing. Ethereum has been looking pretty good though on the last week with, the recent low. We hit that, low. We have a higher low here, higher low, higher low. So, again, price action here on Ethereum still looks pretty good. We still need a little bit more out of Ethereum. I would love to see a little bit more out of some altcoins. XRP is not the only altcoin that's trading in a little bit of a weak structure right now either, by the way. We're just kind of waiting to see something on these charts. We want to see a big break. When it comes to XRP on the weekly, trading above $3.04 and getting a close above that will be a very good start for XRP's reversal. So unless we get that this week, don't expect too much out of XRP just yet. So with that all in mind, thank you guys for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. Definitely leave a like, subscribe, and turn notifications on if you guys did. If you guys do want more free content, you guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord on the description below. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.